Hello and welcome to the Q2 2020 data poll recap. I'm here in Bass Lake, loving life, minus my mosquito bite, but don't mind that. Anyways, every quarter I pull from the top 25 market cap coins and go over a lot of information about them that I think is really helpful if you're going to be wanting to continue investing in them, make an initial investment in them, or potentially even invest your time in terms of wanting to develop on these projects. Okay, so as far as the exchange listing section goes in Q2 of 2020, I have to say that in general, it seemed like there was a lot more exchanges being featured across the board. Like when I was going through the different numbers of exchanges that these different currencies are listed on, there were just more in general. Litecoin is still in first place, being listed at 170 exchanges, so good job Litecoin. Bitcoin, even though you'd think it would be listed on the most exchanges, or at least in the top 3, is actually in 5th place, because as of this data poll in Q2 of 2020, Bitcoin is only listed on 129 exchanges. They're in 5th place, so that's kind of interesting, especially considering the fact that a lot of these exchanges have the word Bit in their name in the first place. But anyways, Tezos and Chainlink saw some of the biggest increases in terms of improvements of the number of exchanges that they're being listed on. So good job to Tezos and to Chainlink. They're definitely some of the all-stars in a lot of the different data that was pulled this quarter. And as I started to mention in Q1 of 2020, I find it very suspicious and odd that there's only a few exchanges, 15 specifically this quarter, that are responsible for a great amount of trading volume in the top 25 market cap coins. Great example of this is CADDYX, because CADDYX is responsible for 9% of Tron's trading volume. That's quite a bit, considering Tron's such a big project, and the fact that Tron is listed on 118 exchanges. So Tron as a project is listed on 118 exchanges out there, yet only one of them, CADDYX, is responsible for 9% of its trading volume. Same thing with Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic is listed on 109 exchanges as of this data poll, yet CADDYX is responsible for 19, almost a fifth, of its trading volume. And Dash, which is listed on more exchanges than Bitcoin, Dash is listed on 132 exchanges, yet CADDYX, this one exchange, is responsible for 27% of its trading volume. And I give examples of all of the top 25 market cap coins and how much of their trading volume is allocated to what exchanges. And again, it only boiled down to 15 exchanges responsible for so much of this trading volume. And I thought it was also interesting that 11 of those 15 exchanges are located in Asia, like China, Singapore, Malaysia. There's one in Japan. But the other 4 are scattered throughout the world, like one's in the United States, one's in Seychelles, another one is in Estonia, and then the British Virgin Islands. So basically most of the trading volume across the board is happening in Asia. So now for our GitHub data, this is one of my favorite ones to evaluate for some reason, probably because development is so important, so it's interesting to see this every single quarter. But Bitcoin SV has quite a few more commits relative to stars, which doesn't really surprise me. Like a lot of these projects are pretty well balanced with the number of commits relative to stars, but Bitcoin SV specifically has a lot more commits, so there's a lot of development activity happening on their platform, but not a whole lot of stars, not a lot of developers or others going in and actually liking their code repository. And I think some of this probably has to do with the fact that Craig Wright, the founder of Bitcoin SV, is known as somewhat of a bastard child within the cryptocurrency ecosystem within the blockchain ecosystem. So maybe he's got some people doing a lot of work for him, maybe he's doing a lot of work himself, but not a lot of people in the ecosystem are actually liking his project, liking Bitcoin SV, even though its market cap is decently high now. Let's see, Neo and Binance have the opposite problem. So Neo and Binance have a lot of people, maybe developers, but who knows who they've recruited to go in and like their repository, star their code repository, yet there's not actually a lot of relative development happening on it, which to me is almost like building a castle in the air. That's something that would be a red flag as an investor if there's not a lot of code, like new fresh development happening on these projects on Neo and Binance, yet a lot of people are going in and liking it. So maybe they're just really good at marketing, not as great at the raw development, or maybe they have code located or like code instructions in an open source repository somewhere else that I haven't been able to find. If that's the case, clue me in, let me know where it's at. MakerDAO has a lot of developer activity. Speaking of, maybe being off the GitHub, Maker has a lot of their developer info and activity available off of the GitHub. So it's code repository that I've posted. GitHub isn't probably the best representation of developer documentation that you can find. And then on a similar note, the closest code repository I could find for Bitfinex, aka Uniced Leo, was not the most robust GitHub out there, and I found that a lot of Bitfinex's extra documentation was located off GitHub on their website and had a lot more to do with API integration, not necessarily open source development in general. So if you know of a better source for Bitfinex, for Uniced Leo on that, let me know as well. And I still can't find a close enough code repository to post for US dollar Tether. So that's another one. If you know what the deal is with US dollar Tether, why I can't find a solid code repository for them, holler at me. Outside of that, Chainlink, Tezos, Crypto.com coin were definitely the biggest gainers. So again, shout out to Chainlink and Tezos and Crypto.com coin for getting the most percentage gains in this quarter of 2020, this last quarter of 2020. However, Dash, Ethereum Classic, Cardano, HedgeTrade haven't added much, if any, new commits to their repository, which again would be a huge red flag if you're an investor. That's very concerning if developers are not going in and actually making new commits to this code repository and actually developing on this code repository. So Dash, Ethereum Classic, Cardano, and HedgeTrade, you definitely have to step your game up. And originally, I was like, benefit of the doubt, maybe because some of these projects like Dash and Ethereum Classic have been around, arguably Cardano have been around for a while, maybe there's just not as much development that needs to be done on their code. But then I took a look at Bitcoin, which has been around by far the longest, and they added over 1,000 new commits in this last quarter. Bitcoin added over 1,000 new commits, yet these other guys that I've already mentioned haven't added much, if any, to their code repo. So they got to step their game up. Now time for the Twitter and Reddit recap. I'd have to say that despite the fact that Ethereum Classic doesn't have much, if any, developer activity happening on their GitHub, when I was going through all of the Twitter information, I definitely noticed that Ethereum Classic seems to post updates on Twitter. So that might be another one of those projects where they're pretty good about marketing, but not necessarily development, which yet again should be a bit of a red flag. Some of our biggest gainers, percentage gainers in terms of Twitter followers were yet again Crypto.com coin and Chainlink. So some of our little all-stars, like I mentioned before. Some of the biggest losers of Twitter followers for 3 straight quarters, that's quite a bit, is Litecoin, Monero, EOS, Bitcoin SV, and IOTA. So again, Litecoin, Monero, Bitcoin SV, and IOTA and EOS have all lost Twitter followers for the last 3 quarters in a row, and Neo has lost Twitter followers for the last 2 quarters in a row. So I guess they all have to step their game up. Something I thought was kind of fun in terms of like being a number file when I was going through these is the fact that Neo and Monero, the day I looked at this, had the exact same number of Twitter followers, which is kind of odd that these numbers are in the hundreds of thousands, yet they had the exact same number of Twitter followers. That was a little weird and suspicious to me in a way. Not necessarily bad suspicious, just oddly coincidental why Neo and Monero would have the exact same number of Twitter followers. And then on a totally unrelated value judgment level, I thought it was really interesting that Crypto.com's number of followers was a numerical palindrome. So on the same day that I looked up the Twitter followers, Crypto.com's number of followers was a numerical palindrome, which again, when you get in the hundreds of thousands, is really rare to see. I don't ever remember seeing it, but their number of followers was 169,961. So 169,961, same forward as backward. Just thought that was kind of fun. And then as far as the Reddit information goes, Bitcoin is still hands down leading the charge, getting an A+ when it comes to the number of Reddit forum members at over 500,000. So good job to Bitcoin on their Reddit page, their subreddit. No project in Q2 of 2020 actually lost forum members, Reddit forum members, so that's positive. Yet Litecoin, IOTA, Tron, Ethereum Classic, UOB, and Unised Leo. So yet again, we're hearing the ones that aren't doing so well in terms of Litecoin, IOTA, and Ethereum Classic, as well as in this case Tron and UOB, all gained less than 1% of new forum members, so they did the worst. Whereas on the all-star list, yet again, is Crypto.com, Chainlink, and Tezos did exceptionally well in terms of the percentage increase in the number of Reddit forum members they have. Last but certainly not least is the section on platform size. So our projects that are actually considered platforms, usually smart contract type blockchains, have a certain number of tokens on them, and I evaluate how many tokens are listed on each of the platforms to go over how healthy a lot of them are. And in this quarter of 2020, we added two, one called WanChain and one called YoCoin. So welcome to the platform list, WanChain and YoCoin. Polkadot was the only one that was listed previously, the only platform that was listed previously that is now off of the list in terms of not having any tokens listed on its platform. So I don't know why Polkadot dropped off. Personally, I'm a little sad because Polkadot, from what I understand, was headed up by Gavin Wood, who was one of the top original developers and founders of the Ethereum project. So I definitely had higher hopes for Polkadot. Maybe they'll make a comeback, but who knows? And on that note, Ethereum is still, for the record, by a wide, over 1,500 token margin, the leader. They're definitely the outlier in terms of this analysis. Like, they were the originals to come up with a smart contract platform, and they are hands down killing it compared to the other projects. So Ethereum has over 1,500 tokens listed on it, hands down #1 place. But outside of them, I feel like Binance improved the most in terms of adding the most tokens and making the highest percentage gains of tokens added to their platform. Again, outside of Ethereum, which is its own outlier. And Waves, ironically, Waves lost the most tokens in Q2 of 2020. So that is all for the Q2 2020 data. Thanks for watching this. I hope this information is as helpful to you as it is to me. This video is only a small recap of what I've actually pulled and evaluated. If you want to see the meat of it, so to speak, you need to go to the website, and I will leave all of the links to these different sections down below so you can see how each of the top 25 coins stack up to each other on a lot of these different metrics that will hopefully allow you to make better decisions on what you're doing with your energy and your money in the blockchain market. Thanks so much. Bye.